we've spoken about omnichannel advertising for a long time. We've addressed it. Where does it stand in this fragmented world? What are some of the roadblocks and how might it be solved? What are sort of some steps and as sort of a follow-up, how do we bridge the open web and the walled gardens? This is sort of a question we're asking today.
So I think there are three big opportunities and three big challenges. The opportunities are increasingly the world is basically becoming two things. Electronically, it's becoming pretty much digital. So whether it's television, which is going over the top, online, social, mobile, it's all digital. And in the analog world, it's all primarily basically becoming place or event-based. Once place and events come back. But place and events, by their very nature, are built around social media, if you think about it, Instagram and TikTok and a bunch of other, YouTube. And so the first is, the opportunity is the electronic world is bringing all forms of television and online together in one. And second is they're connecting to what remains in the analog world. So in the analog world, there is very little space now for magazines, for newspapers in the analog form. And so the first is the world of division is coming to be. The second, or the world of division is disappearing. The second is in the walled garden versus non-walled gardens. Marketers have become very, very open now to the fact that their future cannot be determined by Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc. They know in the near term it might be, but they've begun to realize that they do not want to be reduced to nothing but manufacturers, where these companies basically own their customers, they own the data, they own the marketplace, they own everything. So many of them are starting to think about alternative ways of reaching across these platforms, crossing the continents, building on first-party data, working cooperatively with each other, and also to a great extent, pressurizing lobbyists and FTC to break these companies up. So that's the second opportunity. And the third and most important is people want a seamless interaction with companies and media. So people want unification. Marketers demand unification and do not want to be held accountable. And the way our technology is going towards unification. So the good news is the future is omnichannel. The bad news is because as it goes to omnichannel, you need to have three key factors. One is the people have to align. And right now there are obviously lots of different vested interests, profit centers and stock prices, which is one aspect. The second is measurement has to align, which is how do you actually measure and how do you evaluate people as they cross these boundaries? Both measure the effectiveness, but also see the seamlessness. And third is you got to basically have a creative storytelling that actually integrates all of these versus reflecting that it's the same message going across the board. So I think those are the three challenges, but those challenges are possible to overcome because the reality of it is any company that doesn't think about omnichannel in the next 5 years may not be a viable company. For many years, I was an advisor to 4C, which is bought by Mediaocean. And to a great extent, what Alok, who is the founder of 4C, and I had chatted for a long time, was how to basically bridge two things. How do you basically bridge a consumer across all social and all electronic media, including YouTube? And how do you then follow them to OTT, which they had increasingly begun to do. Now, by being part of Mediaocean, that also gets them into some sort of system of record, or measurement of record, or at least accounting of record. So I see that clearly as one area where this future might be born from. And I would anticipate there may be some other areas, but many of those areas are likely to come from not neutral parties, which is we're already beginning to see a pushback where Google basically owns the entire ecosystem or Facebook owns the entire ecosystem.
Rashad, I wanted to ask you about changes at the media agency companies in terms of organization of teams to execute across media planning, buying, and measurement, and maybe high level, some changes you see or what you're recommending.
So broadly, we're about to enter the third phase. The first phase of organization was we organized by media. So you basically had television, radio, print. The buying was organized by media, and the planning was tended to be organized, in a way that sort of crossed media, but the buying was media. The second is when you basically try to integrate where the planning and the buying, where while you might have different buying specialists, eventually everybody reported to one chief, buying officer, whether it was digital, analog, etc. And so that one became the second one. So the planning was increasingly centralized and the buying was increasingly centralized. Now we're moving to the third one, where the measurement and financing of this will also be centralized. And when that happens, you're going to basically have this unique combination of one team working with different specialists, but all basically with a united consumer in perspective, a united planning in perspective, and a united measurement in perspective. And increasingly, we are basically getting there because more and more people are thinking much more broadly than they were thinking before. And by the way, it's much easier when digital becomes dominant to get to that model than when analog was dominant.